Common challenges of SharePoint migration for large businesses and enterprises. A SharePoint migration does not fail when the files move slowly. It fails when the organization discovers too late what those files depend on. That is the mistake behind many enterprise SharePoint migrations. Project is planned around what needs to move: site, libraries, folders, documents, permissions, and users. But in a large organization, SharePoint is rarely just a file repository. It is where departments built workflows, stored records, managed approvals, connected business systems, and created workarounds that became part of daily operations. So the real migration scope is not just content volume. It is the environment around the content. That includes how information is structured, who has access, what business processes depend on it, which systems connect to it, and whether users can still work effectively after the move. If the migration plan is based only on inventory reports and storage estimates, it is incomplete before the first workload moves. The first area to examine is content and structure. Most enterprise SharePoint environments contain years of accumulated content. Some of it is current and business critical. Some of it is outdated, duplicated, or no longer useful. Some of it may need to be retained for legal, regulatory, or operational reasons, even if users rarely touch it. Migrating everything may feel safe, but it often creates a cleaner version of the same mess. The new environment has the same redundant files, the same confusing folder structures, the same inconsistent naming conventions, and the same difficulty finding important information. That is not modernization. That is relocation. A stronger migration starts with a content audit and information architecture review. The organization needs to decide what should move, what should be archived, what should be deleted, and what should be restructured before it reaches SharePoint Online. That also means looking at how information is organized. If every department created its own document libraries, metadata habits, folder structures, and naming conventions, the migration is a chance to rationalize that structure. The question is not just, where does this content go? The better question is, what structure will make this content easier to govern, secure, find, and maintain after the migration? The second area is security and governance. Large SharePoint environments often have permission structures that accumulated over years. Access was granted for a project, then inherited by a library, then modified for a folder, then changed again when a department reorganized. Over time, the actual permission model can drift far away from the intended one. That creates risk during migration. If permissions are copied without review, the new environment inherits outdated access. Sensitive documents may remain too broadly available. Other content may become harder for the right people to access. Site owners may not know what they own. IT may not have a clear business contact to validate whether the access model still makes sense. A SharePoint migration should not blindly preserve old permissions just because they exist. It should clarify ownership. Who owns the site? Who owns the content? Who approves access? What retention rules apply? Which sites are still active? Which sites should be archived? Which libraries contain sensitive or regulated information? Those are governance questions, not just migration setting. The migration is often the first time those questions become unavoidable. That makes it a useful moment to reset the governance model before the same problems are carried into the new environment. The third area is business dependency. This is where many migration plans become more complex than expected. A SharePoint site may look like a document library from the outside, but inside the business, it may support an approval process, a reporting workflow, a compliance record, or a connection to another enterprise system. Older SharePoint environments often include custom workflows, scripts, web parts, forms, and integrations that were built to solve specific business problems. Some were documented, some were not. Some still matter, some are obsolete. Some need to be rebuilt using modern tools like Power Automate, Power Apps, or different architecture entirely. If those dependencies are not identified early, the migration may move the content successfully while breaking the work around it. A contract library may feed an approval workflow. A project site may support a reporting process. A form may trigger notifications that teams rely on. A document set may connect to a finance, CRM, ERP, or records process. Moving the files does not automatically preserve those relationships. That is why discovery has to come before timeline commitment. A migration roadmap should be built around actual dependencies, not just data volume. Some content can move as is. Some needs cleanup. Some requires redesign. Some customizations need to be rebuilt. Some workflows need to be replaced. Some integrations need sequencing so business operations do not break at cutover. User adoption belongs in that same dependency model. If the migration changes where people find documents, how they request access, how workflows run, or how collaboration spaces are structured, users need communication and support before the change lands. A technically successful migration can still fail operationally if people do not understand how to work in the new environment. A stronger approach is to treat migration as a structured modernization effort, not a transfer exercise. Start by assessing the current environment. Review content, structure, permissions, ownership, workflows, customizations, integrations, and user impact. Then make decisions before the migration starts. What moves? What gets archived? What gets deleted? What needs to be redesigned? What needs to be rebuilt? What governance standards should be applied in the target environment? From there, build the roadmap. Sequence the migration work around business value, risk, dependencies, and operational continuity. This is what reduces disruption, not assuming the environment is simple, not copying everything forward, not waiting until cutover to discover that a library, workflow, or permission model supported more than anyone realized. Read the full article before your migration roadmap is locked, especially if the current plan is based mostly on site inventory, storage volume, and migration tooling assumptions. It walks through the planning risks that need to be assessed before the move begins, so the roadmap reflects the real operating environment and not just the content that needs to transfer. A SharePoint migration is not just about getting content into SharePoint Online. It is about making sure the environment you move into is cleaner, safer, and more governable than the one you left behind.